The Social Network tells the remarkable true story of the creation of Facebook. Fueled by David Fincher's masterful directing and an Aaron Sorkin script, this is one of the best films of the century. Let's break down why.
You don't get to 500 million friends without making a few enemies. What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. We're finally going to break down one of the greatest films of the last 25 years. It's in my top 10 of the century, and that is David Fincher's The Social Network, featuring an ensemble cast of emerging talent that we all know and love today. Wonderful, masterful screenplay from Aaron Sorkin, one of the best ever, and pitch perfect directing from the man himself, David Fincher. Trent Rezno, Atticus Ross's music is propulsive and so clashing with the times and paved the way forward for modern film composition. There's so many elements to this film that I love. I watched this again last night. I'm probably on a dozen watches in total on this film, and I really think this is just an exceptional piece of work, one of the greats of all time. This will stand the test of time, and I gotta say, man, I remember when they announced it, we were like 17, 18, and I remember thinking, like, they're making a movie about Facebook? That's so, how's that going to be good? Like, I was like, there's no way that's going to be good. And then lo and behold, it became a sensation. In 2010, I would say it's the best film that came out that year. It didn't win much awards, but it got nominated for a ton, but I think it deserved so much acclaim and accolades. And I think David Fincher really was snubbed for Best Director for sure. And I think that it's just a wonderful movie.
It's amazing. And David Fincher's movies are so rewatchable. Over and over again, you can watch his films, and this is up there with all of them. But I mean, every one of his movies, I've watched like at least 5 times. Some of them I've watched like 25 times. It's insane, like Fight Club or 7. And I love The Social Network. This one's always so fun to revisit. You always get something new from it. And it's absurd to see the young talent. I haven't watched it in a few years, but we got Jesse Eisenberg, Armie Hammer Before Everything. We have Rooney Mara. The cast is so good. Aaron Sorkin even has a cameo, but, you know, this movie's not exactly about Facebook. You know, it's not a movie about Facebook. It's about the creation of Facebook. But at its core, it's about the oldest themes of storytelling: loyalty, friendship, betrayal, classism. These are themes that are in some of the best movies ever made, great novels, stories going back thousands of years. And that's really what this movie's about. It's about these friends who create something together, but then something tears them apart. What tears them apart? And also, what's really fascinating about it is it's this sort of new tech that was created, or not new tech, but this new way to communicate with the world was created in an old form of capitalism, an old corporate world, which changed the dynamics of everything, where, you know, we have Sean Parker, and this is a main character who invents Napster, gets sued like crazy by everyone in the music industry. Everyone who went to the Grammys sues Sean Parker, basically. But he changed the music industry forever. Mark Zuckerberg changed globalization, communication, technology forever by inventing Facebook. And this movie really taps into the idea that, you know, disrupting the structure that has existed for so long, where people have the money, the corporate overlords, the hedge funds, they control business, they buy you, they fund you, but they also control you. Whereas this is, the kids are in charge now. We have something new that's cool that they could never create. They don't know how to. They don't understand what it is. They don't even understand what it is themselves. But to now, they're in control. They're in the king's throne, and they have control over the future of the world in a lot of ways.
Yeah, 19 and 20-year-olds became, in a way, the most significant people and entrepreneurs and business builders and world leaders of their day, which is wild. And it's the Facebook was such a unique thing where there were other social media apps and websites, and I mean, we were using MySpace or Friendster, so the concept was there, but Zuckerberg's genius in the direction he went in is obviously what changed the world. And this movie's so fascinating because, like you said, it's kind of like Moneyball, another Aaron Sorkin film where it's a baseball movie, but it's not really about the sport of baseball. It's more about the numbers and, in a way, putting together a team. And this film is not really about the building of Facebook. We get plenty of that. We get bits here and there. Although we don't get much specifics, this movie's about the dynamics that went on behind the scenes. And I really love the structure of the screenplay that Aaron Sorkin took it in, where it's a triptych, and we're bouncing around consistently, and it's so brilliant, especially on rewatches, where you can see how he connects threads, and he'll connect one line from one deposition to a line in the real story to another line in a different deposition. I think it's just a brilliant structure to use the depositions, which really took place in Aaron Sorkin's research. He found that these depositions, although they weren't happening simultaneously, they did happen around the same time. And I like how he structured it where it's in this film, they're happening at the same time. And you can imagine Mark's bouncing around deposition hearings going back to Silicon Valley. Like, this has been like the last couple of weeks of his life. And these deposition rooms, this is a private, closed-off hearing. This is what happens when a case settles out of court. This is what happened. You know, they never went to court. They settled it out of court. He paid them. They signed NDAs. No trial ever happened. So it saves public scrutiny until a book gets written about it, and then until a movie gets made of it. But I think it's a really brilliant way to structure the story, where we can see the effects that Zuckerberg had on the people around him while we're also meeting them. So you're seeing in a way, the conclusions, the finales of the relationships at the same time as you're seeing like the budding of the friendships or the meeting of them. I think it's a really compelling way to go about the screenplay. And to contrary to popular belief, he did not base the screenplay off the book. So he was writing the screenplay at the same time as the writer of the book, The Accidental Millionaires, was writing his book.
Billionaires,
sorry. And so that guy, I can't remember the author's name, he had sent the first bits of his manuscript to studios. Sorkin read it. He's like, I want to be involved. And so they were basically writing their pieces together around simultaneously. So while he was still researching writing that book, Sorkin was researching and writing his screenplay, and they would actually independently research and share notes with one another. So it was an interesting process where it's not like he took the book and adapted that. He used it as a jumping off point, and they actually collaboratively worked together on both of their projects. And I think it's an interesting creative process in the writing of this movie.
It is credited as based on.
Yes.
And
it is.
Won a Best Adapted Screenplay. It's similar to Memento, where Christopher Nolan was writing. He asked permission from his brother Jonathan, who was writing the short story Memento, if he could turn it into a screenplay, going in different directions, but they were both writing their scripts.
Great connection.
And short story at the same time. And around the same time, basically, that Memento came out, the film, Jonathan's short story got published in, I believe, Esquire magazine. And so they were working together, but he asked permission. Hey, this sounds great. It would be a great movie. Can I write a screenplay?
That's perfect illusion.
Gave him his blessing to do it. Now, directed by David Fincher, written by Aaron Sorkin, based off that book, loosely according to Anthony in his research. The Accidental Billionaires, the founding of Facebook, a tale of sex, money, genius, and betrayal. IMDb. The Social Network is a 7.8 with 738,000 ratings. Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 98% critic score, 87% audience score. Letterboxd, it is a 3.9. 19% of those are 5 stars. And it won 3 Academy Awards on 8 nominations. It won Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Editing, and Best Music. And on a budget of $40 million, it was a huge hit. $224 million at the global box office, a movie about kids from Harvard creating Facebook. Who would have thought it'd be that big of a hit?
With a bunch of actors that mainstream audiences had not been aware of yet. Now they're all stars, but...
Do you think that this movie helped him get Spider-Man, not because he's a great actor, but because you got to see him as a youth, like a teenager in that setting?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after this movie, he became one of the hottest actors immediately in Hollywood, and then I'm sure he got his... when you're in a big hit like this and you're emerging, after this happens, you're taking meetings everywhere, and you're getting pitched movies everywhere. So I think absolutely this led to him getting the Spider-Man role. And then Zuckerberg, this turned him into a huge actor, and he's had a very prolific career since then, and now writing and directing too. But in my opinion, this is the best work that Zuckerberg's done, that Eisenberg's done, still to this day. I think he's absolutely sensational in this film. He really, I think, immersed himself and disappeared into the role of Zuckerberg. Eisenberg's one of those actors where he does you see him a lot in his roles. There are actors like that. In this, I think that he really disappears. And Andrew Garfield is a singular talent. everybody knows that now, but he was still emerging. He was big in England. He had won BAFTA Breakthrough Rising Star Award from Boy A. And then this was really like his big coming out party in Hollywood. And Armie Hammer, I think, is brilliant in this film as well, playing the Winklevoss twins, the Winklevi. This was, I had never seen him in anything. I had never heard of him. I had no idea who this guy was. And he just pops on screen, and there's a reason why he became so big and so successful. He really is fantastic. And then Rooney Mara, her big breakout. She had done A Nightmare on Elm Street. In this film,
That's right.
That movie was not well received. It was really terrible. She played the female lead in that film, and it just didn't work out. This role, she's only got a few scenes, but she really stands out. She's extremely photogenic and emotes so well, but also she's got a punchiness that really, you can see why Fincher used her again in Dragon Tattoo. She's got this really great power and confidence as a performer, and her scenes, even though there aren't that many of them, they pack a lot of power in them and really tug at your heartstrings. So she's phenomenal in this film. And then Max Minghella, who's the son of Anthony Minghella, was an amazing filmmaker. This was his breakout role. He went on to do Handmaid's Tale. So the cast in this film, I mean, Fincher knows how to cast a movie, all of these emerging talents, and they all work perfectly in this pieces of this puzzle.
I didn't know he was Anthony Minghella's son, but it
Yeah.
makes total sense now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just want to let everyone know, if you're watching and I look like a slob, I wore my Zuckerberg outfit. I got my fuck you flip-flops on. I got my hoodie. I got my shorts. So this is why I'm dressed like a college student.
He's got a hoodie, but it's not Gap. But
It's not
close enough.
it's not a zip-up either, but I don't have one. But I tried.
I loved doing research for this movie because I watched a doc about the behind the scenes making of The Social Network, which revealed so much cool information to me. And this movie was so fascinating, I think, just from a development standpoint. And Aaron Sorkin wrote this long-ass script, 178 pages. This is a long script. And the studio told Aaron Sorkin to cut off at least 30 pages. But director David Fincher decided to keep all of the pages. He told Sorkin to read all of them within 2 hours. They timed him, and Sorkin succeeded. And that's with all the action and everything inside of it. And that's why the dialogue, also in the opening scene, starts immediately when the studio's logos are shown. You don't see that very often. And what's really cool about that opening scene is it's 10 pages of dialogue. And Fincher insisted on this long opening. It was done, obviously, a ton of takes, 99 takes to do this scene. Fincher does a ton. They were one short of 100. 10 pages of dialogue. And also, what was cool about this scene when I did my research is usually when you're filming a scene with a crowd at a bar or a dance club, everyone else is quiet as hell. They're miming, talking, they're miming, eating. They're being as quiet as possible so that all you really hear on sets is the main actors on camera mic'd up so you can hear their dialogue. And then you insert all that in post. You add that with sound design. People in the club, people in the bar. It's very common. Same thing happens with the dance scene. Usually there's no music playing in the background. Sometimes there is. Depends on the director and what they're doing with their process. But for example, the club scene between Sean Parker and Jesse Eisenberg, they're screaming at each other and the music's so loud. Fincher does that on purpose because that's what a club's really like. But no one else is making any noise on that set. There's no noise at all. There's no music. It's just them screaming at each other with the mics. It's fun to see the before and after when you're watching like the clips of behind the scenes and then how much music and sound design helps with the film. But with the opening scene, Fincher had the entire crowd, all of the extras, talking and having improvised conversations, creating an actual natural background noise, which really sort of inserts you inside of a college bar in such a great way, but also forces Rooney and Jesse to speak loudly. It just adds so much to their performance. So I think that's such a fun fact about the opening scene of this movie, where normally you wouldn't hear anyone talking in the background, but in this scene specifically, Fincher had everyone talking in the background.
Yeah. Fincher is always heralded as such a stylish filmmaker, but I would actually disagree and say that he is probably, if not one of the most authentic and true to real life directors there is, because of his lighting and because of his sound design. And the sound design, like the club, I mean, you watch any movie and it'll open with like people dancing in the club, but then the music will fade down when your leads start talking.
Yeah.
And they'll just go in the background. That doesn't happen in real life. When you're really in a club or you're really in a bar, it's loud.
Loud as fuck.
You have to yell over each other. And it feels so real. It feels so authentic. You're like, okay, these guys are in a club. I can barely hear them. But that's the whole point. He wants it to feel like a real setting, a real environment, just like the opening scene. So I watched this last night for the first time on a 4K. UHD, and it not only looked incredible, but it sounded incredible. And I've seen this film many times on streaming, and it's just it felt like a different film. And so first visually, I was able to see the real coloring, the real midtones, darks, shadows, and highlights. And this movie is dark, and it's great for it. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a sec. But the sound design also is improved on the 4K release, true to the theater. And what's so interesting is the sound design is so exceptional, like you were talking about in the opening bar scene. In pretty much most movies, the sound of your actor's dialogue will always be bumped up compared to like environment, just because they want the audience to be able to really make sure they're hearing what the actors are saying. But in this sequence and the club sequence and a few other scenes in this film, the whole environment it's just so balanced where it feels real. And Mara and Eisenberg's dialogue is really, in some instances, quieter than some of the background, and also in the club scene, and that really envelops you into this soundscape that they designed and these sequences and makes it feel real. And I liked it so much, and it also makes you really focus as an audience member, really pay attention to what they're saying, because it's not easy to hear them. And in a way, I think that improves the movie watching experience. It makes you feel like when you're in a bar, a crowded, loud bar, music's playing, 60 people around you talking, and you're having a conversation with people, you do have to like lean in sometimes to really make sure you're hearing what the other person's saying, or if you're in a club or whatever. So as an audience member, I felt like I was kind of, in terms of the auditory experience, kind of like really having to hone in, and it really made me much more focused in the scene. And so I think that pointing out the sound design, it's just really brilliant. And then he's not afraid to make the sound design ugly when it has to be. And he always makes sure the visuals and audio suits the setting. So, for example, the first hearing in Harvard after he crashed the system, and I had this volume turned all the way up, and I never really quite noticed it before, but the sound of the background hum of the fluorescent lights is loud. It is very loud. Any other film, the director and the sound team would, if there is a natural hum in that environment they filmed in, they would try to drop that down and make it less noticeable. Fincher, I'm guessing, jacked it up, because when that scene started and it contrasted so much from the scene before it, you immediately hear the fluorescent throughout the entire scene, and I was like, I feel like I'm in that room.
No, yeah, but there
It's
aren't really
amazing.
fluorescent lights making that hum on set.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
No, but the way you worded it, you
Sorry.
sound like they picked up a hum on set because they built that. It's a
no, I'm saying
soundstage,
if they pick up a hum on set, on other sets, directors will drop that down.
Oh yeah. I mean,
But like
yeah.
he's like putting it in on purpose because he wants you to feel like this is a room with fluorescent lights overhead, and he wants you to feel that because that's what we hear when we walk into those rooms. So the sound design of this film is exceptional.
And this movie had intense rehearsals, 3 weeks of rehearsals. And it's cool to see some BTS stuff of these rehearsals because it's basically they went scene by scene, and it'd be Fincher, Sorkin, and whatever actor or actors are in that scene. Intense sessions, breaking down every single word, every single line. And it just shows you the meticulous detail that David Fincher puts into his films. Every single scene, every single thing was pieced together and taken apart and analyzed with his actors and with Sorkin. And it was so cool to see in this documentary how involved Aaron Sorkin was on set and also in this rehearsal room, because he knows the story so well and he knows dialogue so well. And Sorkin, he's just one of the best writers of dialogue there is. And he'll say himself, I've seen in interviews, like, plot he's not great at. Overall plot is not his strong suit, but what he loves to do and one of his greatest strength is writing interesting dialogue that sounds realistic but sounds authentic and would be great to hear in a movie, and that's his thing. And this builds such a strong understanding for not just the filmmakers, but for the actors to really understand the story of every single scene, how it connects everywhere. And then obviously you do 1,000 takes with Fincher, so you get what he wants. But I think it's a really interesting thing to do such intense rehearsals for a movie like this.
What's really cool about Aaron Sorkin's writing process is that when he writes, he doesn't visualize what's happening while he's writing. He doesn't like picture in his mind visually what's happening, like in a scene. He doesn't picture people in a room talking or whatever action's happening, whatever setting it is. The way he writes in his head, it's like a radio. He doesn't visualize it. He only hears dialogue. So that's why he's so attuned to speaking in natural dialogue, because when he doesn't visualize, he only hears in his head, which is so interesting to think about. Like when he types, he's not thinking about what it looks like. He's only thinking about what it sounds like on set or like in a movie, which is so cool. And Fincher's involved in the writing process too. There's plenty of footage of them working together. And Aaron Sorkin said that he's never worked with a director who was so specific, and he did help fine-tune and edit the screenplay to his needs as a director. And so I think Fincher's someone who's like, he doesn't get a credit for writing. He never has. But with Mank, he did. But he's absolutely helping fine-tune the screenplay to what exactly he wants in the scenes.
I watched this interview with Eisenberg talking about Fincher and how meticulous he is and how talented he is. But he said basically Fincher, he's never worked with a director as skilled as him because he says he's probably better than everyone else at their job and could probably do their job better than them because he's so passionate about it. He's so detail oriented. He's like, he could probably do a better performance than me. He could probably do better than this. So he's thought out everything so detailed and knows exactly what he wants. It's so specific, even though they're doing a bunch of takes. But that's basically what Jesse Eisenberg was saying, is that Fincher, he's so good at everything that he could probably do my job better than me.
And this film has a visual feeling reminiscent of his older films. And it's because it was the first time he had collaborated with Jeff Cronenweth, the cinematographer, since Fight Club. Cronenweth shot Seven, shot Fight Club, and they didn't work together for 10 years.
Has he been his guy since then, too?
He did Dragon Tattoo, and then he did something. He didn't do Mank, and he didn't do The Killer, but he did Dragon Tattoo. But Fincher did work with a different DP for Benjamin Button and for Zodiac. And so I think reuniting with Cronenweth, it did have, if you can feel like this connective tissue, because the thing is, like, Fincher films, no matter who the DP is, they do, because he's an auteur, he's so fine-tuned in his directing, they do all look the same. But I think there was like a reminiscence to his older films with this movie, and I think having that DP back helped that in a way. You know what I mean? It just feels right. And his camera work in this film, it's so controlled and fine-tuned, and there's one instance where he goes handheld when after Sean Parker hears the police in the college dorm room.
That was so odd to see, honestly.
Yeah, Fincher does handheld like once or twice in his movies, but you really feel it. And even though this is a film about, court depositions and legal battles and insane amounts of dialogue, it's visually stunning and has some incredible sequences. I mean, I gotta say, the rowing sequence, the Royal Henley race, is one of the most incredible spectacles of visuals I've ever seen. And I remember seeing that in theaters, and I was just so blown away by that rowing sequence. And I'll break it down. I've looked into how they filmed that, and I'll break it down later.
I was so curious because it's almost like the top and bottoms are warped or out of focus.
Oh, I'll break it down right now.
Yeah,
Why not?
Yeah.
So this is the Ringo Vi competing at the Henley Royal boat race. And this is essentially, they call it the Super Bowl of boat racing. Like, this is the biggest race in the world for rowing.
Bigger than the Olympics?
Well, I would say the annual race.
Gotcha.
So the Olympics is definitely bigger. And so what they did to make this look visually so interesting, and if you watch it, the depth of field is so strange and it's so atypical, and things are out of focus in the background or foreground that don't seem to relate to normal photography. And so the way they achieved this was actually out of necessity. So they shot this at the real location, the Royal Henley, which is a really huge river where these boat races take place, and it's massively wide and bigger than they were expecting. So that posed a challenge of making it visually dynamic because it's so wide, the water. And they were surprised when they got on set how big the entire area was, because they weren't able to immediately be like, we can't make this as exciting as we want it to look. And so on top of that, they had to shoot the inserts in Newton, Massachusetts, where they filmed a lot of the film. So most of the insert shots, close-ups of the rowers, close-ups of the boats, of the oars, things like that, those were all filmed in Newton, Mass.
On Charles River, right?
Yeah, Charles River.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the wide shots were filmed in England at the Royal Henley. I think it's in England. I hope I'm right.
It's not in England.
Okay, not.
They used, I can't remember where it was, they used a house to make it look like England.
Okay. But wherever the Royal Henley boating lane is, they did film it there. However, so all the wide shots were there at that real location, but they could only really film the race 4 times. That's all they had time for, because it's a real place. And so they weren't able to do all their shots in time, so they did all the wides there, and then all the inserts and close-ups in Newton, Mass. And so they created this digital effect, and it's a replication of a real lens technique called tilt shift. It's real. What you do is these certain lenses, they tilt the lens in its direction in center towards the camera. And so what happens is it creates a shift in the depth of field. That's why, and you can do this with real photography in real life. It's a real effect, practically done, to change the area of depth of focus and to change the position and angle of focus. So you can do this on a camera lens, and it changes the direction of depth of field normally from what it is. And so they replicated that effect with digital visuals. This company called A52 did all of the visual effects in the sequence. So they did both fake tilt shifting effects digitally, and they also composited the Newton, Massachusetts shots with the Royal Henley shots, and they digitally made the backgrounds extremely out of focus in order to disguise that the inserts and close-ups were not in the real locations, because the Newton, Mass location was just grassy hills on both sides of the river, and it looked nothing like the Royal Henley area. So they created all these effects to allude to what Fincher called a faux tilt shift digital effect, and that's why the sequence looks like that. And it was built out of necessity, but it looks so stunning, and I've never seen anything visually like it before. And again, watching it last night, it's only 1:45 long, this entire sequence, but it is jaw-dropping and absolutely such a showstopper.
It stands out for sure. It's nothing like the rest of the film. It looks almost surreal.
Yeah.
And the music from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross adds so much here because it's so fun and almost carnival-esque. It's like a carnival nightmare sound.
And it's a cover.
Yeah, it's a cover.
Yeah,
I don't know the song.
Hall of the Mountain King.
Gotcha. But they're fucking terrific. I mean, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, the music in every Fincher film is phenomenal. Not to mention, they work with Luca exclusively, it seems like now. Luca Guadagnino's movies, Challengers, is one of the best of the year. But I think this is some of their best music they've ever done for film, The Social Network. It's really, really terrific. And they did win an Academy Award for this. It's so powerful. It's so fun. It's so tempting. It teases you with sort of the betrayal, and they're able to capture the theme so well with the music, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that they just have such a great collaborative, creative experience with David Fincher and his movies. They really understand his stories and his storytelling. They're able to expand and bring it to new heights with this movie. But there's a lot of visual effects in this movie if we're talking about stuff they're doing in post-production.
Yeah.
Obviously, Armie Hammer playing 2 characters, the Winklevi, Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. He's working with a stunt double. So Armie Hammer is the face of both characters and performs as both. But Josh Pence, another 6'5", very attractive, blonde-haired, blue-eyed actor, is playing the other twin. So they shot this all practically in camera, but with a bunch of digital visual effects, similar to how they were doing Benjamin Button. So they were both portrayed by Armie Hammer, but Josh Pence, who was a Ralph Lauren model at the time, played them strictly from the neck down whenever they were doing body double shots. His face was digitally replaced with Hammer's to make them appear identical, as the 2 men are unrelated. They don't really look anything alike. They were playing with the idea of possibly doing fraternal twins. Could have worked, but the Winklevoss twins in real life are identical. The 2 of them spent 10 months in a twin boot camp, apparently.
10 months?
That's what it says. To match one another's subtle movements and rapport. I doubt it was 10 months, but they got to know each other really well. They have very similar, obviously, structure as well in physicality. And in addition to the visual effects, Fincher, what he likes to do in every one of his movies is split screen. So, he's doing the traditional split screen. The easiest way to do twins or on screen or doppelgangers. You just cut the shot in half. You don't move the camera. It's very simple. Fincher's been doing that in his shots for years. He does that for using specific parts of takes in a lot of his films. For example, Fight Club, when Mills and Somerset are on the couch talking about the
7?
case. I mean, what did I say?
Fight Club.
7. Mills and Somerset are on the couch talking about the case with John Doe. They're both separated by some space on the couch. Fincher's playing around with using specific takes from different other versions of the take in the scene for what kinds of reactions he wants from the actors, or whatever he thinks best. So he'll split the screen, use the left side of one take, the right side of another take, but the camera hasn't moved, so everything looks identical, and the lighting hasn't changed at all. So that's a very simple way to do it as well. But they did every scene with the Winklevoss twins were in the same shots together with Armie and Josh Pence on camera. So what they would film it multiple times. They would first shoot the scenes with Josh body doubling both, and they'd swap. And then Armie would do the takes solo. So he'd go either onto the set by himself, or they would do it on blue screen of him doing the scene solo in both the wardrobe. And so not every time, but if they had to, he'd switch wardrobes. So basically, you're filming the scenes multiple times with both actors flipping to the other characters.
Yeah, and it looks, honestly, it's 2010 and it looks perfect.
It looks pretty good. There are some moments
there
where
are a couple.
It's like, oh, that doesn't really look like Armie.
But most of the time, you're like, which one is it? Which
Yeah,
one's not really
they did
him?
a really good job.
There are a lot, and I would say I think the most impressive one is really the first really good look we get at them, and that's the medium close of both of them in the frame rowing, and Armie's in the foreground, and then Josh Pence is clear in the background. But it looks exceptional. It looks amazing, and yeah, there's some cool, funny little behind the scenes of them filming, and like there's a scene where it's them two, in Max Minghella. And it's when they're reading about Face Smash crashing the network in the morning. And they did a take, and then Fincher's like, okay, I need you guys to swap everything. You go where he was, you go where he was. And they had to like take the shirts off, put the other ones on, and then sit in the other seats. He's like, I want to make sure. And he said, I want to make sure your heights are exactly the same in all the shots for the B camera. And so he wanted them to always be identical as possible in every frame. I'm
sure it slowed down filming a lot. Especially you have Fincher who does a lot of takes, but then you really have to pay attention to continuity constantly. Yeah. That's what script supervisors on set for. You have continuity people as well. Everyone though has to be on their A game constantly. Oh, did he use his right hand? Did he use his left hand? Because Armie or Josh have to match exactly what happened before that.
And Josh said that he was working with Armie to make sure that their body language was as perfect as possible for every take and every different role and every different scene. So they worked closely together to make sure the physicalities were as identical as possible. Yeah,
but the physicalities between them for when they're swapping characters, but they did create different characters. What was interesting to learn about how they were able to, show that this is Tyler, this is Cameron, is they came up with, they did some research, and one of the things they did is the way you stand. Some people stand still, they have a lot of their weight on their right foot, or they put more of their weight on their left foot, or some people stand with their weight back on their heels, or some people stand forward with their foot, most of their weight forward on their toes. So it's interesting to think that, of course, they're identical twins. They're not robots. We're not robots, even though we're identical.
Are we?
But that's a simple way to say, all right, this is how Cameron stands, this is how Tyler stands. And you sort of do get to be able to tell a difference. Mostly for me, it's based off their personality.
Yes.
One of them is a little more, relaxed and reserved and doesn't want to be dishonorable men of Harvard, and is like, we don't sue. That's not what Harvard people do. We're honorable men. And he's a little more relaxed, whereas I think it's Tyler's the more of the hut head. Like, I'm 6'5", 220, there's two of me, let's beat his ass. Like,
much more aggressive.
Yeah, so you can definitely see the hostility differences, but also personality differences. I think they did a pretty good job showing how different they are.
And their hair is different in a few scenes. Their hair is a little bit different in a few scenes, but their hair is pretty similar in most of the scenes.
Josh Pence has a cameo in this movie too, as well. So when Mark and Eduardo, they hook up with those girls in the bathroom after they start to get acclaim and fame around campus, and then they're holding the door as security so that no one goes in. And the guy who comes up and says he wants to use the bathroom, like, sorry, there's a couple girls cleaning up in there. He's like, all right, man.
Right. That's such a bro thing to say.
Yeah, that's Josh Pence's cameo in the movie.
And you can see, I watched a lot of documentary too, and even Aaron Sorkin was like, they could be fraternal twin brothers. You could see that. And he's like, it's possible we might do that. We're not sure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's from a perspective of why can't they both do it? First of all, they're identical twins. And, Josh Pence, this is a great opportunity. You're working with David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin every day.
Yeah.
That's a huge privilege, even though your face is going to be replaced. From an actor's standpoint, that's not amazing. But for me, personally, if I was an actor and I got to work with Fincher and Sorkin every day, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, he said in his interviews that when he signed the contract, it wasn't fully decided yet if they would replace his face or not. So he signed on with the they said, we're thinking of doing this face swap thing. We're not totally sure. So that was actually in the contract. So he knew signing into it, there was a possibility he would be in the film. There was a possibility he wouldn't be in the film. But then he said, like you just said, he said, you can't pass up the chance to work with David Fincher. So it's interesting that he said yes to the film, not exactly knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty, young. I mean, early tech in terms of face replacements. It's not like it never been done before, but could they do it well? But at the end of the day, also, from a directing standpoint, from the movie, Armie Hammer is absurdly talented. Despite
he's great.
His real life stuff, he's a very talented actor, and he's a standout. Would it have been as powerful of a movie if Josh Pence is in there? If he's as good as an actor as Armie Hammer? I have no idea. I mean, we'll never know. He's a working actor. He's in TV a lot.
I mean, I would say I watched a good breakdown of many of their scenes behind the scenes, and I would say, so I watched a big breakdown of after they lost the boating race, and they have that chat, the three of them, about finally going after Zuck. I saw a bunch of takes of Josh Pence's versions, and they just didn't pack the same punch as Armie Hammer.
Well, I would argue that that's because he's not going out on set performing constantly as, like, give it 100%. You have to sort of, I'm guessing that he's toning down his performance for, not interfering with audio.
Maybe.
As well as to not kind of, I think because they're trying to get the performance from Armie, the audio from Armie, really get a good take from that. My guess is, because I watched the same thing, I'm assuming that they toned him down to make it easier to replace the faces and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I think the performance is probably 50%.
It's possible.
Not that he's not giving effort. It's like you have to tone it down because we have to make sure we get clean audio of Armie doing this dialogue and clean actions. We also need you to be as still as possible and not move too much because we have to put him there and replace you, basically.
Also, the real former president of Harvard, Larry Summers, who has a scene in this film, he's portrayed in this film, when the twins go to talk to him about their idea being stolen, he described. It seems like the Winklevoss twins were the only ones who were like really accurately portrayed, because he said, the real Larry Summers said, the portrayal of his meeting with the twins was accurate, and he went on to say, I've heard it said that I can be arrogant. If that's true, I surely was on that occasion. One of the things you learn as a college president is that if an undergraduate is wearing a tie and a jacket on a Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock, there are two possibilities. One is they're looking for a job and have an interview, or two, they're an asshole. This was the latter case. Rarely have I encouraged such swagger, and I tried to respond in kind. So he said that was pretty accurate to how they were in real life.
I mean, rarely have I encountered such swagger. It is pretty funny. I mean, and I think that's one of the main parts of the film that I love so much, this idea of, did they invent Facebook? Did Zuckerberg steal their idea? And that's a strong part of the movie, and it's sort of up for debate. It's very subjective. At the end of the day, Zuckerberg in the film, Eisenberg has that great line in one of the depositions, if you were the inventors of Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. And that makes so much sense, and that clears up a lot. Was Zuckerberg unhonest with the Winklevoss? Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was leading them on to get a head start on his website. Did he steal their idea? Not really. They were doing a dating site for Harvard Connection. Yeah. That's what they wanted to do, a dating site for Harvard Connection.
Match.com for Harvard guys.
Basically. Yeah. And Harvard guys and girls. And Zuckerberg came up with a brilliant idea that was fueled by this, inspired by this, by taking the entire college experience and putting it online. So innovative. Does the coding himself, creates it himself. The Winklevoss, let's say they won a lot. Let's say they were able to stop Zuckerberg from going forward with the Facebook. They were able to shut it down, and Facebook never existed. Would the Winklevoss twins ever been able to come up with the Facebook or something like it? No fucking way.
Nah.
They would not have been able to invent what Facebook became. And because they aren't genius programmers. Zuckerberg, perfect score on his SAT. The next Bill Gates of his generation, you can argue. No matter what you feel about the guy in his personal life, private life, whatever, public life, the guy changed the world. Changed the entire world not that long ago. That's why I think this movie is so fascinating. It wasn't that long ago. This movie came out just a few years after all these hearings and lawsuits happened. In 2003, student at Harvard, a sophomore, creating the biggest website that would ever exist outside of search engines.
3 billion users right now.
Insane.
3 billion.
And I wonder if is that just Facebook or is that including
Facebook?
No, but is that including Instagram?
Just Facebook.
It's absurd. I mean, lots of bots, I'm sure, but
No. There's 3 million people they have. I'm sure there's like billions and billions of accounts. Zuckerberg said there's 3 billion users.
no, I'm just saying there's probably lots of bots.
Oh, there's definitely
yeah.
bots.
So a bot's a user.
No, okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
They all have bots.
I'm saying I think he means actual people users.
Yeah, but I know, but a lot of them are bots. There's a lot. I'm not saying like there's a billion bots, but every platform has a shitload of fucking bots.
That's true.
A shitload, especially Facebook.
There's like 50 bots on there.
This is probably like 100 million bots, but there's still a lot of users. It's absurd. But I love that as sort of not the base of the entire movie, but one of the main plots of betrayal. Did he betray Eduardo Saverin? Did he betray the Winklevoss twins? I wouldn't say he completely betrayed them. He led them on. What he did was unfair. He should have been honest from the get-go. I don't like your idea. I'm going to do my own thing. I mean, it is what it is. They settled in court, obviously, private, outside of court. The bigger betrayal is probably Eduardo.
Yeah.
I think Eduardo's the actual betrayal of the film because they were best friends. He was Mark's only friend, according to the film. And he betrayed Eduardo. He muscled him out. Of course, Eduardo didn't read the contract fully. He just thought he trusted Mark. But that, for me, is the strong betrayal of the film. Betraying your best friend, your only friend, who you couldn't have done this without. And, of course, you're in control of the program. You're writing all the code. You created the websites. But Eduardo backed it up. He had your back no matter what. He was there to help constantly. And you betrayed him. You muscled him out of a company that he helped fund begin. Like, they had no funding if it wasn't for him. They had different ideas of what the website was going to be, but no one knew exactly how big it would be or what it would become until Sean Parker came in. But still, betraying your best friend when you didn't have to, that is the strongest part of the film.
Yeah, and real quick, right back to the Winklevoss interaction in the bike room. There's this great moment Eisenberg does where when they're telling him the Harvard connection idea, you see Eisenberg, he like has a little reaction like an aha moment. You can see that subtly, and he's like, they're talking, but he's already thinking of, oh wait, I can make a better thing than that. And I think it's a really great moment in the film, and subtle performance note from Eisenberg, and it's just like, oh my god, that's where he got the idea in this film, and then going from there. And obviously, you could say that what he did to the Winklevoss twins was unfair, and Narendra.
And I mean, they got $65 million.
They got paid $65 million. They got plenty of money, and those guys end up becoming very successful people in real life. He did lead them on, and he did delay them because he knew, and like I think it was Tyler who says because he knows it's Divya says if being first is everything in the business world, and with entrepreneurship and with the technology creation. So Zuckerberg definitely knew that. Now, this movie's not obviously exactly what everybody said and not what everyone said. Sorkin said about writing the screenplay based on a real material, I don't want my fidelity to be the truth. I want it to be storytelling. What's the big deal about accuracy purely for accuracy's sake? And also, in his masterclass, I can't remember word for word what he said, but he basically said, these are my versions of these people. These are not the real people. These are characters that I'm writing. This is my version of the story. It's a film. It's not a documentary. This is a narrative film, and this is my version of the story. This is like, I'm a storyteller. I know the beats of what happened, and I'm gonna build around that. And so people say things they didn't really say in real life, and people did things they didn't really do in real life. I doubt that Eduardo Saverin's girlfriend was burning the scarf he gave her for a present while Zuckerberg told them that they got the investment from Peter Thiel. I mean, these things, they work better narratively in the structure of a movie. If you want the real stuff, research and find what you can. Maybe there will be a documentary made, but this is a movie, so I think it's absolutely okay and valid for Aaron Sorkin to embellish and to use the narrative structure of screenwriting to make the story better as a film. So I think it's totally okay for it to be inaccurate at times. But you can't deny the actual events and the factual things, like the Winklevoss, the emails, there's evidence, and also what happened to Eduardo Saverin really happened. So these are really big moments, and they paint Zuckerberg, obviously, as a morally great person. I don't think he's the soulless. I think that Zuckerberg is dialed a little too much into a villainous character type in this film, if you're going to compare him to real life. I mean, I don't really know the guy, but obviously for dramatic effect and for the story, it works better where Zuckerberg is deeply insensitive of other people, where he is portrayed as kind of being on the spectrum. He has trouble connecting. He has no friends. In real life, he had a girlfriend who he's now married to at this time. He met her while he was building Facebook, right before he was building Facebook, and he's been with her ever since. So he wasn't like this single guy who had no girlfriend. Like you have that line of, oh, at least you have a girlfriend, Eduardo. He was with someone. He was with someone, his life partner, all this time. You know what I mean? And Face Smash was fueled by, in this film, Erica Albright and the tussle they had. In real life, he said he was more motivated to just build something. And I think you get that from the real life Zuckerberg. He is. I think that maybe we don't think of him as Silicon Valley people as inventors, but they really are the inventors of their day. They're creators. They're builders. And he is the most significant builder, one of the most significant builders of our time, of technology. It's just that technology has become digitized in a lot of ways. So you can't deny that. It's like building the next great machine that changes the world. And so I think that narratively it works better, but Aaron Sorkin did embellish the characters, obviously, for the film. But I do think that, Zuckerberg did some pretty shady stuff. There's some sketchy stuff he did. He was young, 19, insane situations, a lot on the line, huge pressure, billions at stake. And, in a way, he betrayed his friend, but also in a way he was trying to cut out someone who was jeopardizing his business. There's two sides to that story. It's a matter of what side is the story taking the position of, and in this film, it does cater to Eduardo Saverin a little bit.
The Accidental Billionaires, The Founding of Facebook, A Tale of Sex, Money, Genius, and Betrayal came out in 2009, a year before the film. And the way that Ben Mesrick, the author, wrote this book is he did it with conversations he had with Eduardo Saverin, the Facebook co-founder, as well as court documents that were public and made available to him because of all these college kids suing each other. So he was getting the majority perspective from Eduardo, who ended up walking away with who knows how much money. The guy's worth $60 billion right now.
Oh, my God.
It's undisclosed how much he got in his settlement, but you can bet your butt he probably got like 20 or $30 billion
in some shares.
Something absurd. Absolutely absurd. I don't know if he has shares because Mark still maintains.
Okay, yeah,
51%.
right,
I think he's got an absolutely enormous check.
Big,
I think he probably got like $20 billion because Zuckerberg's net worth right now is $250 billion. At the time,
I bet he got. I read reports that he got $600 million. But nothing's undisclosed. Nothing's confirmed.
Actually, at the time,
it wasn't worth enough money to pay him that much.
Facebook was worth $25 billion.
So they couldn't have paid him $20 billion.
Yeah, you're right. So he maybe got like $1 billion, which is absurd. But he's obviously a very smart guy. He's used it to turn it into $60 billion.
Yeah.
But again, the book is from the perspective of those conversations with Eduardo. Like he said, everything's two stories. It seems like he was betrayed for sure. When you watch the movie, when you understand the contracts, absolutely, Mark betrayed him and did a terrible thing to his best friend. And what I think is so great about this movie is obviously Jesse Eisenberg and his performance as Mark Zuckerberg. Now you obviously it's a real person, so you can only go so far into being as 100% accurate because at the same time you're making a movie and you're on set. You're doing 99 takes of this dialogue of a character, so everyone's going to come out differently. And Eisenberg, he likes to go full in on his characters. he wanted to even dye his hair red. Fincher's like, no, you don't have to dye your hair red. You just have to like know who the character is. You just have to understand it. And I like how Aaron Sorkin wrote Jesse Eisenberg's character, Zuckerberg, and how he performed it with Fincher's directing, because I'll never understand what his mind looks like, is like. We'll never understand what someone's with a 1600 SAT score's brain works like. I'll never understand how he thinks. But what I like about this movie, especially with the opening scene, is we really get to understand how Mark's mind works. You know, he's in the middle of a conversation, but he's thinking about several other things at the same time. All the scenes in this movie, his brain's going all over the place. It's interesting because it makes it seem like he's on the spectrum, but really I think his mind's just working so fast. Mm-hmm. He's thinking about 3 other things while he's having a conversation with you. It's sort of like a computer. He's sort of processing information at an insanely high rate, but he, according to the movie, and especially that opening scene, he doesn't understand the nuances of conversation, the subtleties of what's happening. He doesn't understand, like, oh, that was just a joke. Oh, you're actually breaking up with me. Oh, that was sarcasm. He looks at everything at such an analytical perspective, like a computer would, just data, like binary. I think it's an interesting way to write and portray the character so that we can kind of understand how intelligent this person is, how their brain works, how their thought processes work, and how they could be corrupted. You know, if they get not a virus, but if they have another person coming into life that starts to sway their decisions, how does that affect his relationships with someone else? And I think the opening scene is a brilliant way to show how Mark Zuckerberg's mind works according to the writers and the filmmakers, so that the audience can understand this person's just got a different kind of brain.
Yeah, and what I really like about the performance is he's not really a character that necessarily changes throughout the course of the film. And you see him in different periods flashing back and forth consistently throughout the film. It's just the situation. He's a character who is static, but he's changed the world around him, rather than a character changing over the narrative. And by the end of the story, they're a different person. They see things in a different light. In this film, Zuck he's the same. And it's interesting to see how his personality works within different contexts, whether it be in the dorm room with his buddies or in a deposition room with high-class lawyers. He is always unapologetic. He is always uncompromising in his action and in his dialogue. And that's what I think is really exceptional. And it's not like I think it would have been a mistake to portray him as like, oh, he's like a shy, insecure kid when he's at Harvard, but then when he's CEO, he's like a confident, I'm the guy. He's the same person throughout the entire course of the film. It's just he's changed everything around him, which I think is the best way to portray this character. I think if it was a different writer, it would have been pretty weak, and Fincher obviously wouldn't have wanted to get involved. But I think that we love when characters change in stories, but also it can be great when your character doesn't change, but the world changes around them. And that's what Zuckerberg is. He's like a force of nature. And I like how he's portrayed basically in the same manner by Eisenberg, from the opening scene with Erica Albright to like the final scene as the youngest billionaire in the world. And he's the same guy, but he's changed everything.
That's a good point. Now, before we continue, why don't we just run to our intermission?
Yes.
And get back. And if you want to know the best way to support the show, it's patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. The best way to support our show. You become a patron today, and you get access to all kinds of things, like the ad-free version of every single episode, no commercials, every single main episode as well. You get access to bonus episodes. Our weekly chat lives there.
Yes.
As well as all the bonus episodes we do. Only patrons can access those. Also, you get access to our Discord, and every tier of membership on Patreon has different kinds of perks, different price ranges. For as little as an annual sign-up fee of just $10, you get 12 months subscription to our Patreon. Sign up today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Another great way to support the show. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. These ratings help us get seen by new people. They help build reputability for the show so that people are more likely to give us a shot and check us out. Please also subscribe on YouTube. We broke 50,000 subscribers last month. Big deal for us. Big deal. But we'd love to hit 100,000. You know, you don't make 100,000 friends without making a couple enemies. We're pretty easy to find on YouTube. Don't forget to also help us by sharing us. Word of mouth is the best way for our podcast to grow, so share our Instagram posts, TikTok posts, share us with your friends, family members, anyone you know who loves movies, needs something to listen to in the car, on those long drives, at the gym, on a walk, working in the background. We'll crack you up while give you a very insightful knowledge and analysis of our favorite films.
Quite insightful. This episode, like always, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code there, Raiders10 at movieposters.com, and that will get you 10% off your order immediately. They have a huge selection of pretty much every film and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. They have everything from your favorite Hollywood blockbuster to social network. Social network posters, fantastic. One of the best of its day. They even have Hollywood classics, golden eras, international posters from all over the world, and they have very, very cool collector's items like lobby cards of your favorite classic films and even movie poster original prints. These are very valuable if you're a collector. The best place to get them is at movieposters.com. Our set in our home are decked out with these amazing high-quality prints with very affordable prices, made more affordable thanks to our promo code. So don't forget to use the code Raiders10 at movieposters.com, and that will get you 10% off your order right now.
Now let's begin our intermission with Cinephile.
Yes.
The card game where we play. Each card has an actor or actress's face on it. Anthony and I have to go back and forth naming movies from their filmography until no one can anymore. It usually ends with Anthony winning.
It'd be cool if you pulled out like Eisenberg.
Pull out a card. We've done her before. Can't do that.
Who was it?
Meryl Streep.
Oh, yeah, we just did
Did her a
few
couple weeks ago. Here we go with Helena Bonham Carter. All right.
Good one.
And you cannot do Fight Club.
Okay. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Nice. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Nice. Oh, I thought did I say Half-Blood Prince?
Yeah.
In my head, I was saying Order of the Phoenix. Holy shit. Okay, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland 2.
Is she in the second one?
Yeah, the Red Queen, right?
I don't know.
I can double check. Let me check.
Go for a double check there. Let's confirm that.
Alice.
I've only seen the first one
Through
once.
the Looking Glass. Through the Looking Glass. Let's see. Yep, Red Queen's in it.
Okay. Looks like it's my turn. Corpse Bride.
Big Fish.
Helena, 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 Helena. The King's Speech.
Oh, good one. Shit. The Room with a View.
I'm trying to think of her other Tim Burton movies. God damn it. Helena, what else are you in? I feel like she voices other characters too in other animated movies.
Yeah, I just can't picture. I'm bad with the animated ones.
I'm out.
Okay.
No more for you.
Helena Bonham Carter. Shit.
See if you can get one more.
I'm gonna go with. Shit, I don't know. I'm done.
Enola Holmes and Enola Holmes 2.
I've never seen them, yeah.
But I know,
I know she's in them.
She's in them. Ocean's 8 she's in, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What else? Cinderella, Suffragette.
Oh, she's Fairy Godmother. Suffragette, yeah.
Lone Ranger, Les Miserables, Dark Shadows.
She is in Dark Shadows. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Magnificent Seven. No, TV movie. Doesn't count. Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Oh, yeah. She plays the woman.
Lady Tonnington.
Yeah.
Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Series of Unfortunate Events.
Okay, that's a lot of movies. Don't keep rubbing it in.
No, I'm not wrong. Just for myself, too. You won. I mean, what do you mean rubbing it in?
Okay.
You're the victor, like usual. All right, let's move into the movie quote competition. It's like Anthony always winning. This is between two characters. Are you ready?
Ready.
You do know there are more guns in this country than there are in the city. Everyone in the mums is packing around here. Like who? Farmers. Who else? Farmers' mums.
Hot fuzz.
Yeah.
All right, here's mine. We didn't have the gallery in order to look into your souls. We had the gallery to see if you had souls at all.
No idea.
Never Let Me Go.
Hmm.
Have you seen it?
I don't know.
You should check it out. It's great.
Never let. Who's in it?
Garfield, Keira Knightley, Carey Mulligan.
I gotta Google it.
It's amazing.
I gotta Google. Never Let Me Go movie, 2010.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've never seen this.
Watch it. It'll blow your mind, man.
Way to pick a quote that I've never seen, man.
Well, I thought you'd seen it.
I don't know.
I guess
Anthony,
not.
guess this movie release year. Ghost Rider.
2005.
2009. 7.
Oh.
2007. No, I said 9.
What year did The Other Boleyn Girl come out?
2000 and... Oh, man. How old is this? Is this... This is before Fantastic Beasts.
You're mixing it up with The Danish Girl.
No, I'm talking about... Oh, Eddie Redmayne's in The Danish Girl. Never mind. The Other Boleyn Girl, 2013.
2008. Sorry, that's the ScarJo one.
Yes.
Where she poses in the Vermeer portrait that's super famous. And what's his name? Plays Vermeer. Is it? Oh, is it? What's his name from King's Speech? Jeffrey Rush? I think so. No, it's Colin Firth.
Colin Firth.
Yes.
All right, Anthony.
Anyways,
movie pop quiz time. Tom Hanks has played real life characters in 9 movies.
Damn.
How many can you name?
Shit. Forrest Gump. Just kidding. Catch Me If You Can.
Nope. Not real.
Wait. He's not a real person?
No. Handwriting's created for the movie.
Oh, damn. Bridge of Spies.
1.
Saving Private Ryan.
Don't believe he was real.
Damn it. Okay, hold on. I got this. Well, there's 9.
Actually, there might be 10.
He played 10 real people.
Yep, there's 10.
Okay, what did I say?
You said Catch Me If You Can, which was wrong, and Saving Private Ryan, which was wrong.
What did I say that was right?
What did you say? The Post.
The Post. No, I said the Bridge of Spies. So the
Shit.
Post and Bridge of Spies.
No, Bridge of Spies isn't, so it's the Post. It's the Post
Bridge of
only.
Spies isn't?
No.
Damn it. All right, the Post.
So you got 1. I gave it
Charlie Wilson's War.
2.
This is tough. Captain Phillips.
3.
Sully.
4. Actually, no, Bridge of Spies is correct, so it's 5.
Okay. I got 5. Shit. This is a tough question. Philadelphia?
No.
No.
Wait. Yep. Yeah, you got that.
Nice.
Sorry. Now it's
6.
11 movies. He's played a lot of real people. 6.
6. Let's see. Trying to think. Tom Hanks movies. Well, I'm blanking out. Tom Hanks movies. The Terminal.
Yep. There you go.
I need some Zemeckis ones. So I said Sully. What's the other Zemeckis ones?
You're doing pretty good.
I'm doing better than I thought I would.
7 out of like 11 or 12, whatever it is.
Is it shit. I'm trying to think. Tom Hanks.
You're gonna beat yourself up.
Definitely not Big.
Definitely not big.
I don't want to take up too much time. I can't. I'm spacing.
Richard Phillips and Captain Phillips.
Oh, Phillips. Yeah.
Fred Rogers.
I said Captain Phillips.
Sorry. Fred Rogers, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Also, Jim Lovell from Apollo 13.
Oh my God. Obviously.
And I think you got all of the other ones. Oh, Walt Disney Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You missed that one as well.
Gotcha.
He also played... Oh, and Elvis, Colonel Tom Parker.
Oh, of course. Fucking so recent.
And then he's also played a real character on TV on 1883. He played a real life person. He's played a lot of real people.
That is a lot of real people.
He's probably got the most real life person
Up there.
credits.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Thanks.
I did all right.
Yeah, you got like 8
Yeah.
out of like 11 or
13?
12. However many there are.
All right. Here's the one. Andrew Garfield had an early role in what famous UK series?
Is that the one with Kaluuya? What was that called?
No. It's
Never
not
mind.
Skins.
I don't know then.
Doctor Who.
He's in Doctor Who?
Yeah, he's in Doctor Who episode.
With which doctor?
It was Tenet.
No way. That's awesome.
Carey Mulligan was in a Matt Smith one.
Yeah, I remember that
Oh, I think
too.
it was Matt Smith. Wait, no, it was Tenet. Yeah,
That's pretty fun.
yeah.
Yeah,
The Harry Potter before Harry Potter for UK actor. Well, the Harry Potter of TV for UK actors.
Or just the Doctor Who, because Doctor Who was around for a long time.
Oh no, I mean for like every UK actors in it.
Yeah.
Is what I mean.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, unsubscribes.
Oh, yeah,
Any
yeah.
haters. What do we got, Anthony?
Yeah.
What are we cooking with? I'm going to pull up a 5-star
So, but
review.
by the way, Carey Mulligan, she was in the Weeping Angels episode.
No way.
Yeah, that was her episode.
Did she just play an angel frozen?
No, she
just
played.
kidding.
Okay.
It's a joke. She's not a statue, Anthony. Those weren't real statues.
All right. Jason R, a complete unknown, repeating saying Newport Film Festival instead of Newport Folk Festival, shaking my head, unsubscribed.
Sorry.
I said it, yeah, a bunch of times.
I remember because I edited that and I'm like, I kept saying it.
Weston Smith, Soy Falls? Guys, it's Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Don't worry. I'll extend some fellow Midwest kindness and forgive you. Star Troopers. You mean Stormtroopers? Angry Star Wars fans won't be as forgiving as I am. I just might have to unsubscribe.
You're still getting it for the Sioux Falls, San
Yeah.
Diego,
I've never known how to say it. Yeah.
South Dakota.
Sioux Falls.
It's SIOUX, right?
That's so correct.
Yeah. That's the name of the horse that I ride, Sioux.
See, that's how you knew that.
Yeah.
That's why you knew.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the horse, you wouldn't have known. You would have said soy.
I didn't read it. You were the one reading it.
I know.
I didn't even know what you were talking about.
Next
You
up.
literally said Sioux Falls SD. I'm like, you're like, is that San Diego? I'm like, I guess. I don't know.
Parker Walton. Definitely not trying to criticize. I just find it funny that you guys praised Final Destination and older films for not having realistic lighting, but then crap on Hard Eyes for having stylized lighting. Looks like I may have to unsubscribe for this one. I was just saying I like how a lot of older films they feel like films and not like real life.
I was just taking. Anthony hasn't even seen Hard Eyes.
I haven't.
So I was talking about specific things like the green lit police station.
Yeah.
That stuff irks me.
But Parker's got a point.
He's got a point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we're different people.
Yeah.
You were talking about something different than what I was talking about.
That's
I think.
true.
You know.
I guess. Yeah.
I think you went in a different direction.
I was talking about just like too realistic lighting all the time.
That's you. That's your thing.
Yeah.
I was talking about the green lighting in Hard Eyes.
Yeah. Just a chill guy.
Just a chill guy.
Listen to Epic the musical. Also, I'm a kid. Unsubscribe. Give me updates on Poseidon.
What?
I don't know. Next up, Steven, on your posting of the Trojan horse from Nolan's Odyssey set.
Fuck yeah.
Bro, you spoiled a centuries-old story. I'm going to have to unsubscribe despite it being common knowledge for the public. He also got some hate from people.
They thought he was being serious.
Yeah, they thought he was being serious.
Yeah, it went kind of viral, so like a lot of organic traffic got there, and so people were like,
They don't
probably
know what
understand.
unsubscribed is. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people like, spoiler alert, winky face. Anyone's complaining about that being a spoiler alert for real? I saw it on the internet on Twitter. People are like, oh, you spoiling this for the movie. People are like, it's a 2,000-year-old story.
That's like, what? How's that even a spoiler? Everybody reads that in school.
All right.
When were you going to read the Odyssey? Were you going to read the Odyssey?
Definitely not.
No.
All right, let's get to a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This is from Soda Pop Cinema Reviews.
Nice.
Have a soda pop and watch some movies. I drink a lot of sodies.
James calls them sodies.
Sodies, man,
That
all
makes-
day.
Just call it sodas.
Sodies.
It's like you're trying to make it faster, like you usually cut off words in half. And
No, it's just funner.
sodies.
Sodies,
This
man.
is what they called sodas.
No, I'm going to have my sodies. See, this is a new trend I'm going to start.
It makes no sense.
People are going to start buying sodies and not
Sodies.
They're going to get a Dr. Pepper and be like, I'm enjoying a sodie right now.
Watch a double feature while you drink a soda.
Couple sodies, man. Go kick back, have a couple sodies, watch a movie. That's a good night, according to Soda Pop's
Watch Spotlight.
Cinema Review Spotlight. Podcast extraordinaire, 5 stars. Best movie and TV podcast around. Love the long form content and the family vibe. Feels like I'm talking to my brothers. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Thank you, Soda Pop Cinema Reviews.
That's awesome.
I hope you're enjoying a sodie while listening to this episode.
Sodies all day.
Sodies, kid. Thank you for that review. Appreciate it. Anthony, what's your streaming recommendation?
I recommend renting Better Man and watching it.
Cool.
It's really great.
I recommend cracking open a couple sodies, turn on Max, and watching The Florida Project.
Okay. All right. Nice.
See, but I can't have sodies while we film because they're too bubbly. And
Burps.
They make you burp.
Yeah, burps.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Now I want to let's get back to the Social Network. I want to talk about real things that happened in the real life of this film.
I don't want to talk about it.
That portrayed. And so we're talking about, like Anthony was just talking about with Sorkin. It's his version of the story. His characters. Some of the beats are very real. It actually happened. Some of them they make up for the story. It's Hollywood. And
It's Hollywood, baby.
it's Hollywood. Is that a Rachel Zegler quote? It's Hollywood, baby. The guy might get cut. Whatever. Sucks to suck. Zuckerberg's reaction, you can expect, wasn't great. So he originally planned never to see the movie. He ended up taking several of his employees to see it. He later remarked that despite some of the film's inaccuracies, they got his clothing right. He said much of it was not factual. To quote him, the reality is that writing a code and then building a product and then building a company actually is not a glamorous enough thing to make a movie about. So you can imagine that a lot of the stuff they probably had to embellish and make up. Because if they were really making a movie, it would have been me sitting at a computer and coding for 2 hours straight, which probably would have just been not been that good of a movie. And these guys, I think, want to win awards and sell tickets. So that's kind of where they went with it. 2, he had never met the people who'd make the movie about his life. Aside from the brief encounter with Jesse Eisenberg, to quote him, I think he was a little afraid to meet me after his portrayal, but I tried to be nice. 3, the premise of the movie, Zuckerberg was motivated to make Facebook so he could meet girls was messed up, according to him. Like Ailey talked about earlier, they just kind of made a bunch of stuff up that I found hurtful. He had began dating Chan before he even started Facebook. This is technically true. The two met in a bathroom line at the preemptive going-away party his Jewish frat threw him after he'd met with Harvard's administrative board about the face mask incident. So they thought he was going to get kicked out of school, so they threw him a going-away party. He had met his girlfriend at that party. And some, to quote him, I think the story is just, a lot of hard work. The real story. And I understand his perspective, Some things are true, some things aren't. It is a movie. It's glamorized. But he did show up on SNL when Jesse Eisenberg hosted SNL to promote the movie. During the opening monologue.
He was a good sport.
Yeah. During the opening monologue, Zuckerberg got out there on stage with him. And it's fun. It's cool. Yeah. I think you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt. You can't take it too seriously. When you're someone who has a bullseye on you from everyone in the world from different perspectives, whether it's money people or tech people, governments, people in the comments hating on you, you build a thick skin. I'm assuming he built a thick skin mainly because of this movie for sure. But there are a lot of true things. The blog thing, when he gets broken up with by Rooney Mara's character in the opening of the movie. He goes back to his dorm. He's a little drunk. He's bored. He's pissed off about something with a girl. So he says, basically, I need to take my mind off this person. This person's a bitch. This is all real. You can find the transcript of his blog. It's all real. And I think that was a brilliant way to segue into the rest of the movie. You have this great opening of him with the girl who breaks up with him, how his mind really works, what he's really like. And then it moves into him, I need to show the audience how skilled I am at doing things. It's a Tuesday night, I'm drunk, and I'm coding an app, a website that breaks the Harvard network.
Yeah, with the screenplay, Sorkin understands that you can't just it's boring to just say, it's boring to just be like, I'm going to do this for no motivation. And the other key moment is the second interaction with Erica when she's at dinner with her friends. He tries to apologize, does not go well. She basically dominates him and shuts him down. And then what's he say right after it? He goes to Eduardo, we need to expand. That wasn't his motivation for expanding in real life, but narratively, with that blog being the entryway for Sorkin with the characters' dynamics and the motivation of the story, he used Erica as a fuel for Mark in this story for making the app, for making it an expansion into other schools. So I get why he did it. Obviously, an encounter with Erica Albright, whatever that person's real name is, didn't make Mark Zuckerberg go, I need to expand this, but it works narratively for the film to have him motivated for some specific goal. Like, I need to essentially prove myself, and fueled by that rejection from her. So I get that. There is a really cool tidbit, because the idea of like the biggest website app in the world began in this very tiny bubble in Harvard. It's just crazy. It's mind blowing to think that it was an exclusive app. It was an exclusive website. We didn't even know what apps were back then.
They were not.
It was an exclusive website. Then you could only access with a harvard.edu email. And it's just crazy to think that that's how it started, in this very tiny community, and then expanded from there to the other Ivy League schools. So I love the idea, and we had no idea how it started when we first were using Facebook. So it's fascinating to see behind the closed doors of like, it started on Harvard campus of all campuses, but also it was a culture there. It made him very well known there at Harvard. And there's a scene in the Winklevoss deposition room where one of them says he became the biggest thing on campus that had 4 Nobel laureates, like 19 Pulitzer Prize winners, and a celebrity.
Movie star.
And Zuck's lawyer is like, oh, who's the movie star? In reality, it was Natalie Portman was the movie star. So Natalie Portman was one of the first people ever to have Facebook. And she actually had Aaron Sorkin over for a dinner with some of her Harvard friends, and they gave him a lot of great detail, he said, about what the culture was like at Harvard at the time, what it was like when people started using Facebook socially, what were the interactions like, how was it culturally within the community of the Harvard school. And so I'm sure he says he got great information from her with details of what it was like there.
Facebook was odd when it started, I didn't have a Facebook until I was a freshman in college, and I'd heard of it when we were in high school, and I didn't really want to participate. I wasn't really into having a social media. I didn't really want to be online like that. I had a MySpace, but I didn't really care about it. I just didn't love the idea of social medias because they weren't, I guess,
the social medias
intuitive, and they weren't as crazy cool as they are now, because they are cool and they're addictive. They have pros and cons, but they're very impressive. And it was odd to start one and then start to realize over time that this is where social interactions are happening, like 50-50. It's more now than ever before. It's like 80-20 for people.
It was a website back then. You had to go on your desktop.
But, I mean, you had to go on your desktop. You had to make it on your desktop. You had to actually take photos with a camera and then upload them. Like, you'd go out with your friends, and
no matter where you went, somebody had a point-and-shoot camera.
Someone had a little camera, and then the next morning, you'd check to see if you got tagged in any photos.
Oh, my God.
You were in an album. And it was so interesting when you look back on it compared to now, because it was so hip and so cool at the time. But for right now, Facebook isn't cool for people our age anymore. And the younger generations. No one's really on Facebook. Gen Z's not on Facebook. Gen Alpha, they're not on Facebook. I have a Facebook, but I go on like once a month just to check on notifications or see what cat video mom has DM'd me. That's pretty much it. I don't use Facebook anymore.
Me either, yeah.
We have a Facebook account for the show, but that's usually, I log in and check on that, and that's it. And everything's shifted to Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. Those are the 3 big. But those wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Facebook. Facebook, and then Zuckerberg coming up with the wall. We had Facebook before the wall existed.
Yeah.
And the wall basically was what Twitter became. Just you posted random things.
Yeah.
You posted not just photos, but your thoughts and sentences, phrases, whatever the hell you want, URLs. And that was so groundbreaking. But I remember at the time, what is the wall? I don't get what the wall is.
Yeah.
But it was so innovative and so simple at the same time, which a lot of the best inventions are.
It's funny because it is like you can compare it to physical tech, which has evolved and gotten so small and sophisticated. And you can compare it to like old tech, like you take cars nowadays compared to cars back then and things like that. But like like when we were growing up, the idea, like right now, being tagged in a photo is such a common thing, to be tagged in someone's photo.
Not anymore.
Well, I mean, not anymore, really, because
Exactly. Like, when's the last time you were tagged in something?
that's well, okay. Let me rephrase it, because I would say maybe several years ago, people were posted on Instagram more often, but now Instagram's so tailored where you do get tagged less often, but
Way less, yeah.
way less. But like I would say, early days Instagram and definitely like 2010s to Facebook, you're getting tagged all the time in photos. And that became such a commonality. But now it's such a. But when we were first kids growing up, the idea of being tagged in other people's photos of you and then it being put on it's automatically on your profile, like it's like that concept didn't even exist. And being tagged in photos really, really ignited the social capabilities of Facebook, and because it showcased how the social interactions and life can be lived on Facebook in a way, and now obviously through Instagram, and which Meta now owns too, but tagging in photos, which we see in this film in the third act as something they're working on. When Sean Parker's telling the college kids about the concepts that they're doing at Facebook of the idea of being tagged in a photo, it was groundbreaking, like you said. But now it's like it seems old news. But it's crazy. That's how fast tech evolves. That's how fast industry evolves in invention. But that's just an example. The relationship status is another great example of like this genius idea to add to the profile, and then being like, okay, now it's ready. These little things that are so simple in retrospect, but they were ahead of the curve back then.
And everything's changing. That's why it's so powerful. Social media is always adapting, and the best programs, the best apps, they change with the tide, or they invent the tide. And that's one of the major contentions of strife between Eduardo and Mark in this film. So Mark comes up with this great idea, a social media, basically. You're living your life online, exclusive to Harvard people, but you can invite people. That's the only way to get access to it. You can't just sign up. You have to be invited. To fund this, Eduardo backs it. He backs it no matter, because he's his best friend. It's like, of course I'll fund it. So here's $1,000 to set up the servers, set up the traffic, and while Mark does all the coding and builds the website himself. You know, it's typical business. Like, someone's got an idea, someone funds it. If they can't fund it themselves, then it's a partnership. And the partners, despite Mark in the film portraying it sort of like he's God and does everything himself, Eduardo still is the backer and is the money for the project, which is why he's co-founder. His name's also on the masthead, and he's able to sue for a ridiculous amount of money. Is worth $60 billion today, you know? But that strife of what direction to go in, you know, Mark understands that it's always going to change. They don't know exactly what it is yet, and we shouldn't be making money off it. We shouldn't monetize it, even though Eduardo says we have to monetize it. You understand his perspective. He didn't know what it was going to become. No one knew what it was going to become. Mark didn't even know how big it would become. Eduardo wants to actually make money back. He wants it to be a profitable business, start putting advertisements on it, and that's where their conflict really starts to get stronger and stronger, and this divide happens between them that grows more and more throughout the course of the film. And you know, Eduardo's in New York trying to find advertisers, where Mark goes and meets Sean Parker. Then he moves to California, and Sean Parker comes in and changes everything. You could argue, based off the information in the film, Sean Parker helped build Facebook into what it became. Although he did, with Mark, muscle Eduardo out, they did save it from itself. They saved it from being shut down. If, you know, Eduardo really shut down the cards in real life, I don't know if that really happened. But according to the film, he shuts down the cards, almost shuts down the website. They push him out, and then, you know, moving to Silicon Valley, moving to San Francisco, to California, and building this website with his connections, getting investment, that initial investment of $500,000 to open an office and hire people and have coders full time to really push it to their millionth subscriber, millionth user, was massive. And then it just launches. So I think it's really interesting to look at what tore them apart in the film. They both want to help the company grow in their own ways, but at the same time, they had no idea how big it would be.
Yeah, I think the Sean Parker element gives the film kind of an antagonist, especially for Eduardo. because Mark is a big enough antagonist already, but then Sean Parker becomes a real antagonist and villain for Eduardo to try to overcome. And so it adds another great layer of depth to it. Timberlake's great.
He's really good in it.
He's really good. He beat out Jonah Hill for this role.
Oh, Jonah Hill was up for this?
Jonah Hill was up for it. It was between the two of them. And I think that Timberlake was the right choice because... And Sean Parker has basically heavily disassociated himself from this film. He claims that he and Eduardo Savarino are still actually friends to this day, and that he thinks this portrayal of him is completely inaccurate. Because the film portrays him as a playboy, Silicon Valley bro, entrepreneur. And I think that to get that, Timberlake was the guy to do that. He's a pop star. He's extremely confident, very, very cool. And I remember this being like a big, like, oh, Justin Timberlake's in a Fincher movie? Okay, we'll see. And it really worked. I think Timberlake, this is his best performance as an actor. He's an exceptionally talented performer and entertainer. And he did a great job in this film. I think he was perfectly cast. I do think Timberlake has a ceiling in his acting tool belt, but Fincher utilized what he can do perfectly in this film. And I think it was a surprise for everyone to see how good Timberlake was in this movie.
Yeah, he's awesome. I would love to see a Jonah Hill version, though.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. And I think he did Wolf of Wall Street not long after this film, only a few years after.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. No, he's excellent in this movie. And they even, Jacqueline West is the costume designer on this movie. And she went into intense research on each person in real life. And even to the point where Sean Parker in real life had all of his custom suits made by Giorgio Armani. Mm-hmm. And so they even went to Giorgio Armani to get all of his suits custom made for the movie. So it's really fascinating to go into that much detail. And even the inner lapel says Sean Parker, made for Sean Parker, which is really cool. But no, Timberlake's really good in this movie. And it's so interesting because it's like a meta situation where it's similar to why I think he cast Ben Affleck in Gone Girl. Sure. Ben Affleck, who's gone through so much public scrutiny for decades on tabloids, picking apart his life, people being on his side, people being against him, the tabloids just tearing him apart for 15 years before they finally started to respect him. It was so interesting to cast him in that movie as Nick Dunn because he goes through public scrutiny, so it's very on the nose. And then you have a pop star who probably sued Sean Parker, playing Sean Parker in a movie.
You're right. He did probably sue him.
So it's really interesting to have a pop star, a singer, who's part of this whole process where Napster destroyed the music industry temporarily. Changed everything forever. Oh, really, really, Eduardo? Do you want to buy a Tower Records? He changed everything, which is one of the reasons why I think Zuckerberg was so allured by him, according to the film, and the way he's portrayed. They probably had a great dinner instead of like being so negative towards each other. Yeah. But he did change the world. He changed music forever, put it online, made it stream. Now we have Spotify. Now we have Apple Podcasts. Now we have streaming. Music's everywhere. Anyone can access any song that's ever been recorded, ever, anytime. It's insane. That wouldn't have happened without Napster. And then to have a guy, like I said, I'm sure NSYNC, their label sued Sean Parker.
Definitely.
Everyone at the Grammys sued Sean Parker. So I think it's so fun to put someone in that role and to see what they do with it. And I think Justin Timberlake delivered really well.
When you point out the dinner that they have with Parker, that you made a perfect point where it's like I'm sure the dinner went well.
Yeah.
And the meeting went well, but if that meeting goes well and they just have a nice meeting for 5 minutes, that's not going to read well in a film. You need conflict. So you need that. Aaron Sorkin puts the conflict in there. He clashes with Eduardo. You need that conflict. Otherwise, it's kind of like a boring movie, if you think about it, where everything just kind of works out.
No, it's true. Because then it leads to the really, really crazy, exciting, dramatic moments of Eduardo coming back for the millionth follower or user, not realizing that he's walking into a funeral. He's been pushed out. His shares have been diluted down to 0.03% shares of the company because they are letting 25 million new shares be sold to Facebook to be public. So for new investors, and they are diluting all of his shares. He's walking into an onslaught. It's a massacre. But this moment is so powerful and so strong because so much has been built up between Eduardo and Sean, and the relationship between Sean and Mark Zuckerberg, how they've sort of become their own partners in a way, and he's been sort of whispering in Mark's ear to basically get Eduardo out of there in a lot of ways, and he's moved into the house. I don't know if any of this happened. I don't know if he moved into the house that they got in San Francisco. I don't know if Sean Parker was behind muscling Eduardo out. Who knows what happened, really? But it's a great conflict, and there's a great dynamic between these three guys who are really building this company into this big, massive platform that changed the world forever. But that moment when Garfield, as Eduardo, walks into the room with the lawyer, looks at the contract, knows immediately what it is. His shares are down to 0.03 shares. And then he goes back, and that shot, the camera pans up and tracks backwards with Andrew as he's walking forward, emotional, and then goes and yells at Mark, slams the computer. One of the best parts of the entire movie, but it's built so well because of the conflicts that the writing builds with the three characters.
What's great about that scene is it's like, as an audience member, you want to yell at them too.
Yeah.
It's like Eduardo's doing what you want. You're like, fuck you guys, yeah, Eduardo. And it's such a great moment. And it really is one of the best sequences of the entire film. It's just like 30 seconds, but man, Garfield fucking delivers, man. He's so good in that moment. That's one of the best scenes in the entire film, one of his best line deliveries ever. He's such a great physical performer too, and I love that he's become such a big star because he deserves it. He's really got the talent. I love him in this role. He should have got an Oscar nomination, but he didn't. Eisenberg did and deserved it as well. But this moment is a showstopper, and it's really just such a significant moment emotionally and narratively. And I like how, like, this is near the tail end of the film. You know, there's not much runtime left after this movie. This you would say this is the finale of the film. The climax of the film. This is it. All the conflict has led to this big moment, and it ends on like an unforeseen, like an unresolved future in a way. We do get the resolution with the text at the end of the lawsuit filings and stuff. But in a way, the story's far from over, if you think about it. Which I think is the best way to do this film. I mean, what else are you going to do? You just see how they made the app better, how they improved Facebook even more. I mean, once they hit 1 million users, the audience knows this is the biggest thing. So you don't have to do more for the building of Facebook. Like this is as far as you have to go narratively, I think. So I think that Sorkin ended it really on a perfect beat and a perfect moment for this big milestone for Facebook. They got 1 million users. They're going to get billions of users. We know that. So there's no need to spend much more time invested in what else was built at Facebook. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. What's so interesting is I think this movie's very cool. Fincher makes very cool movies. Aesthetically, tone, music with Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. His movies are always just cool. And who would have thought that a movie about the creation of Facebook would be so cool, look so cool, be so exciting despite being so dialogue heavy? You know, they are tearing through pages of dialogue in this entire movie. This runtime is just people talking constantly. But it works really well. And there's so much energy in the movie. There's so much energy in the script and in the performances. And this movie's, in a lot of ways, it's punk rock. The story's punk rock. Like I said, this corporate anarchy, Sean Parker's influence eventually helping them disrupt the system. You know, we're in control now. We're in charge. This is our time. You don't have to be controlled by someone who has more money than us because we have the opportunity to become the money and be our own thing and be in control. We're in the castle. We're not supposed to be here, but we're here. We're sitting on the king's throne. I think that's one of the best aspects of the movie is, you know, it's modern pursuits, modern technology, modern ambitions in a past world and how they clashed. And what happened at the end is the modern ambitions and the new tech and these new voices, they reigned supreme and they changed everything. And social media and Facebook has changed so much, not just how people interact, but how marketing is done, how business is done, how communication's done, global connection. It's done so much in this world. pros and cons, for better or worse. It happened, and it's still growing. And the bigger it gets, the bigger social media platforms become, the more interesting this movie is to go back to and look at such a primitive caveman version of that website and what it became and how big and popular it is and how it changed everything. It's so fascinating to revisit.
I'm CEO, bitch. And it's actually a theme of the film where Sean Parker is saying, you know, the old men who were the gatekeepers of business and industry, they don't want to take orders from a 20-year-old. But the Zuckerberg became that 20-year-old CEO. He still owns most of the stock. And he revolutionized the idea of industry and business where it doesn't have to be a old man who's worked there for 40 years filled with a boardroom full of guys running a company. It can be a genius kid, because since they created it, they should be in charge of it and not just give it away to the grown-ups.
Who would have ruined it?
Yeah, who would have ruined it?
Yeah.
And so the I'm CEO, bitch is the theme of that. It's a great line. And it perfectly illustrates, like, this is a new era of entrepreneurship. This is a new era of industry. It's not just the old people at the table. The kids are at the table now. And the kids are changing the world faster than the old heads can even fathom. It's so fantastic. And speaking of the business card, it reminds me, Fincher loves opening title credits sequences. It's a part of his DNA as a filmmaker. He always uses them. And they're also different. I mean, and he's made some of the most visually striking opening sequences ever. I mean, if you think about just like fucking Panic Room's so cool. Seven, The Game, Dragon Tattoo. I love his opening title credit sequences. In this one, it's very minimalist. And it's essentially, after the opening bar scene, Zuckerberg going from the bar to his dorm room and trekking across Harvard Square, trekking across the Harvard campus, which was actually Johns Hopkins in reality for filming.
Yeah, they got kicked out of Harvard, right? They wouldn't let them shoot there.
Not kicked out, just Harvard doesn't allow filming. Mm-hmm. So,
at all?
Yeah, they don't allow filming at all. All they could film of Harvard was the overhead. They were on the roof of the building opposite Harvard on Harvard Square, and they were able to get that shot of Harvard. Everything else, all the campus stuff was filmed at Johns Hopkins and a couple other campuses. Interiors and some exterior buildings doubled for Harvard, but nothing was filmed inside of Harvard's campus. But this is a great opening title sequence. We have the beautiful score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This really great small piano theme that devolves into a lot of electronics. And the piano's really cool, and what they did was Trent Reznor played the piano from a great distance away from the recording microphone to create this like far away feeling and echo to it, which I think it just sounds really amazing. But I love this very simple camera work and dynamics illustrating the world. We're seeing Harvard. And also this is like early days digital cinematography at its finest, I think. It's just really remarkable how they lit everything. It really feels like nighttime. It's all practicals. There's no like bogus moonlight fill anywhere. It just feels like a real campus, and I love it. And also the text that he chose, it mimics the Facebook font, and it just feels like it's like a business card text, which I think obviously illustrates a huge theme of the film of it being a business industrialist film. And it's very subtle, but I think it packs a lot of power for an opening title credit sequence.
I agree. I love it. I think it's fantastic. This whole movie is really great.
Yeah.
I mean, every second of it, everything's done so well. And I just love the friendship dynamic as well. You know, these best friends, all this tension building to what breaks them apart. And it starts so early, too. You know, you can argue that it started with Eduardo getting into the Phoenix Club, you know, getting those invitations. There's probably envy there. But there's so much to their relationship that, whether it's true or not, led to the destruction of it, led to the lawsuits. They both work out in the end becoming tens of billionaires. But at the end of the day, would they trade that in to still be friends today? Who knows?
Yeah. And also, Sorkin connecting with the bookmark Erica Albright in the story narrative. It opens in the bar with Erica, and then the film ends with Zuckerberg making a friend request on Facebook to Erica and refreshing the page. while Baby You're a Rich Man plays, which was a great song choice for the end of this film. And just letting that play while he refreshes. So obviously, Eric, this woman was not on his mind since he had a partner by then. But narratively for the film, I think it works to have this emotional connection and this emotional desire for the film that's kind of motivating everything he's doing. And even after all of this, after all the money and success he's acquired, he's still trying to connect to this woman.
Well, it shows a difference between him and Sean Parker, according to the movie, where he asked Sean Parker in the club, "Do you still think about that girl?"
Yeah.
He's like, "What? No!" Where Mark still is thinking about that girl.
Dakota Johnson, early role.
Yeah, early role.
Yeah, nobody knew who she was back then.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Outside of Hollywood, yeah.
Oh yeah, outside of Hollywood, yeah.
Very famous parents.
But I mean, it's wild to see, like, she's in this one scene of this movie, and now she's absolutely one of the biggest stars in this entire cast right now.
Yeah, this whole cast is so talented. I like Rashida Jones in this movie too. She plays the co-counsel. She's sitting in on the depositions, but also her specialty is selecting juries. So she's able to explain to Mark, I can manipulate the jury to let them think whatever I want them to think. It's really fascinating to see how people can kind of just control the court system and control a delegation like that. And I like the line she says where, "I don't think you're an asshole, Mark. I think you're just trying too hard to be one," which kind of makes sense to the character. You know, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, but he comes across as a bad guy.
And it also connects to Erica Albright calling him an asshole in the opening. So another bookend, connective tissue to the very first scene.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Look at you. I didn't even notice that.
I watched this movie enough, so.
and really, Fincher's really playing around with this blue-yellow color scheme in this movie. He loves to do it. It's just sort of his big style now. The last several films, blue, yellow, in his shots and his cinematography and the color and the grading and the lighting. Really beautiful. I think it works so well in this movie. There's some green in this as well, but that's one of my favorite aesthetics to his now is the blue and yellow.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this last week where people, you know, I think that Fincher is the most copied filmmaker of his age. And what he's done the last 20 years, cinematography wise and lighting wise, has become in a way like in sort of like the Hollywood standard in a lot of eyes. And you can see movies every year, they do what Fincher started. I think he really is. He's the most, definitely the most copied director there is, I would say. I think I can't think of anyone whose filmmakers copy more than him.
Well, I guess from that perspective, he's the best director who makes movies that are maybe you have the best ability to try to copy. Like no one can copy Chris Nolan. You know, no one can really do that. It's an interesting thing to say. And
I don't think anyone can really copy Fincher, but I think he's the most. I think he inspires the most filmmaking.
You just said he's the most copied director.
No, but that's just another way of saying it.
Yeah.
Like people are trying to do what he does.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. But I mean, because of the types of movies he makes,
but also
people are trying to copy him,
and also because he's the digital guy, in my opinion. He's the guy who he was doing it before Deakins, and now Deakins is also the other digital guy. But the two of them really progressed digital filmmaking. But I think that there are a lot of filmmakers and a lot of cinematographers do what Fincher does.
Do you remember the trailer for this movie?
Yeah, I do.
It was great. It was opened with.
It was pretty funny.
It opened with several screen grabs of people using Facebook, like making posts, posting photos, and the song, a chorus singing, "You can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
If you try sometime, you get what you need." So there's a choir singing that, but then it's just like 20 seconds of people using Facebook, random people. Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating, making posts, posting photos, comments, and then it gets into the narrative. But it's such an interesting trailer and so enticing, and I've always read that Fincher's always really involved with the trailers for his movies, and I wonder if that was his idea. But it's a really unique trailer, and I think that piqued people's curiosity so much, and it might look very old school because it is the old version of Facebook's desktop, but that's what we were working with, and it was really exciting to see that in the trailer.
I remember, I think the trailer ended with the Harvard deposition. I believe I deserve some recognition from this board. I'm sorry. Like that little back and forth was like how it ended.
Yeah.
To show that it was entertaining. You know what I mean? They definitely put some of the comedy into that trailer for sure.
It had a great trailer, and which had to one of the reasons why it led to, I think, such a huge hit. Because I mean, again, $224 million. Was
that 500?
Massive,
Almost 500 million.
massive. Opening weekend was pretty good too. $22 million opening weekend, U.S. and Canada. That's really solid.
Rated R?
Yeah, rated. Is it rated R?
Or is PG-13?
I mean, why would it be rated R? Is there a bunch of fucks in here?
I don't think so.
PG-13.
Yeah, it's PG-13.
PG-13.
There. It looked like they cut one fuck out that one of the Winklevosses were going to say.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teenagers went to see this movie for sure.
Oh yeah,
it was big time. Man.
The film kids came out for this one.
What's interesting is Fincher's made sort of the movies of the generations. Like he made Gen X, he made Fight Club for them, and then millennials, he gave us Social Network. You know, it connected to us so much.
What's his Gen Alpha film gonna be?
Who knows, man?
They didn't like The Killer.
No, they did not. Not one bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most influential directors of all time. And after he made Seven, the dark crime investigation genre became huge. After Fight Club, the cerebral punk rock movie became huge. And then after The Social Network, the biopic became huge again. He influences Hollywood so much with his work because when he makes a movie, it's really fucking good.
Yeah. And it's so well edited too. I think that's another strong point for The Social Network is it's really, really well edited. Best Academy Award for editing.
Oh my God, the editing's so good.
And the nonlinear storytelling, but also even just cross-cutting sequences are remarkable. The opening cross-cutting after the bar scene of him building the program, and then cross-cutting to all of what's happening with his friends, and just the music with Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, what's happening with his ex. It's just really, really great filmmaking all around.
I love how like a question will be asked in one narrative and then it's answered like in a deposition.
It's cool, yeah.
It's an amazing way of like the conversation never ends, but we're in a completely different setting and it's a completely different time period. I think it's so brilliant, and there's so many great edits like that in this movie that just like you're just like, oh man, that was a great fucking edit. That was awesome. Perfect timing.
It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so glad we finally got to talk about it in depth.
Finally.
Oh man, I love it.
We're almost out of Fincher movies.
I know, we're running out.
Because he's made a game next.
He hasn't made a ton. I'd love to do the game.
Yeah,
that'd be a good time. You got anything else?
Let me see my fun facts. I think that's everything I can think of.
All right, well, that wraps our episode on The Social Network from David Fincher. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Subscribe on YouTube, and take care, everybody.
And Facebook.
And Facebook.
See you next time.